Puritans are the same. But I'm outlining to you that there is a racially supremacist group, which is referred to now as the elitist Zionists, which in the Quran, these psychological assessments, it does apply to them. So I'm explaining to you that they won't find you unless they're behind walls. They won't find you unless they're behind fortresses. يود أحدهم أن يعمر 1000 سنة وما هو بمزحزحه من العذاب أن يعمر. One of them wishes, that they live for 1,000 years. So this, can you, yani, why? The reason why, I don't know if you know this, but in Jewish eschatology, there is no such explanation or description of heaven and hell, by the way. Yani, the ideas of heaven and hell are specific to two religions in the world today, Islam and Christianity. Just to let you know. There is no elaborate discussions about heaven and hell in Jewish eschatology. Now, what that does, one can argue, and I do argue, is that if you don't have an elaborative belief of what heaven and hell is, that you're going to heaven, you're going to be there, it won't give you the advantage of bravery that the Sahaba had, the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had. Because if you read the seerah, there is no doubt in anyone's mind that these people, and especially if you read the Battle of Uhud, it's unbelievable, it's incredible, it's incredulous how they all wanted to effectively die. Yeah, if you read the reports, they were wanting, some of them were saying, some Sahabas were saying, we want to go, there's nothing better for me than to be in battle and to be killed in battle. They were actually glorifying that. Why? Because they believed if they were killed in battle, they would be martyrs. وَالْأَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمْ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. That the shuhada are farihin, they're happy, they're enjoying, they're alive, they're being given provision. So every single one of those bombs that is dropping in the people of Gaza and killing children and killing non-combatants because of the racially supremacist, cowardly enemy who cannot fight you face to face and must fight you behind walls and fortified places. Can you see the difference in mentalities? And that is why it's not about the gun. It's about the person who holds the gun. It doesn't matter how sophisticated your weaponry are. If you are a coward, like the Israeli army, the most cowardly army I think I've ever read about of any historical time period. It doesn't matter how sophisticated your weaponry is, you're going to lose. 100% you're going to lose. We saw on the news that they threatened the people of Gaza, the civilians. They said, we'll give you 24 hours to leave the area. It's been a week and nothing has happened. Now this is shocking cowardice. I mean, think about it for a second. If someone comes and slaps your child or slaps your wife, someone comes and slaps, and then you come out and say, look, say no more, I'm going to be outside your house in 24 hours. You've got 24 hours. And then what happens is, 1 week later, no one's coming. All that's happening is you've got people outside throwing rocks at the house. Hey, wait, these guys here, they're not on it. These guys here, they're not on the beef. They're not on the beef. Because they don't have the conception that we the Muslim people are blessed with, which is the conception of, okay, if I die, this idea that if I die, I'm in a better place, genuinely. And not only just a better place, we know exactly what the descriptions of this place, we'll be alive and this and that. Now it's that which is the most sophisticated weapon that we have to our disposal. Because no Iron Dome, no high-tech fortified places, nothing. The Air Force is meant to be one of the best in the world. All of this is not as sophisticated and as powerful as having tawakkul and iman. True reliance on God, true belief in God, which يتولد منه, it begets bravery of a kind that human beings in all of history have never experienced or seen. We should draw inspiration from the people of Gaza. We should draw serious inspiration, because we look at them and we see their reactions to calamity. You know, wallahi, I've seen many videos, as I'm sure many of you have seen. And I see it in both languages, translated and in Arabic and this and that. I have yet to see a woman, a man, or a child in Gaza who have lost their properties and their lives come out and say, why is God doing this to me? I have yet to see that. And I'm sure you have not seen that either. I've seen the opposite. I've seen a plethora, a multitude, a multiplicity of evidences, all of which, this is what one boy came out of the rubble yesterday, he says, Al-Quds lana. He says, he came out of the rubble. And you're saying, yeah, the Quds is ours. I was shocked by it. The defiance, the resilience, the bravery, the tawakkul. It was on a different level. There's a woman that was wearing hijab, and her kids were in the room, and she was interviewing a white woman in England. And then as she was interviewing her, there's voices in the background, and she was, slightly frightened, but you can see that she had solace. There's so much iman that emanates from these people that is so difficult, even for non-Muslims, not to draw inspiration from these heroic figures. It's impossible. And look at us here in the West. Look at us here in the West. Something bad happens to us, and we are already cursing. Why is this happening to me? Why me? It should make us feel inadequate, to say the least. Let's be honest. When we see these things, it should make us feel totally weak as individuals, unresilient and inadequate human beings. That our iman is so weak, that our ability to take on challenges is so weak. Something happens. You have an argument with your wife or your husband. You have an argument, and it's difficulties and all these kind of things. And then you're in the car crying to yourself like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? You have a teenage child who's unruly. He's doing some bad things. But why me? But why more people me? You have someone who has some illness in your house or your family, or you get an illness, and then you start questioning the qada and qadar. So when we look at the people in Gaza, we should look and say, we're not where we need to be. We're not where we need to be. وأقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. So what can we benefit from this? Because from every bad thing that happens in your life and my life, in our lives, the question you always have to ask yourself is, what is the good that comes out of this? The Prophet Muhammad said, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. Wondrous is the affair of the believer. إِنَّ أَمْرَهُ كُلَّهُ لَهُ خَيْرًا. That all of his affair is good. وَلَيْسَ ذَاكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. And this is not the case for anybody except for the true believer. إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ صَرَّاء شَكَرَ. If good things happen to him, he's thankful. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاء صَبَرَ وَشَكَرَ. And if bad things happen to him, he is patient and he is grateful. So the first thing we need to look at is we need to be totally grateful. We need to exercise shukr and gratitude, number one. Because enough is enough. We've been complaining too much. We've been contaminated by Western culture, where now everything is mental health. And I'm not trivializing it. There are some genuine mental health difficulties people have. But then mental health has not become just a matter of psychological expertise. It's become somewhat of a religion now. Anything that's a problem, oh, I've got mental health difficulties, I've got mental health difficulties. I'm saying, look, with all due respect, that's not going to force resilience. If the people in Gaza had the same attitude, mental health, they could not get through this with that behavior. I'm not saying, once again, there's no genuine case, but what I'm saying is, this should allow us to build internal resilience. When I look at these people in Gaza, the patience, the sabr that they have, I'm totally inspired by them. And the Prophet Muhammad he said, إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ بِالتَّصَبْرُ. Certainly, to be patient, to be resilient, you have to practice resilience. Which means we need to stop complaining. That's what we need to do. Lesson number one, be grateful and stop complaining. We do it, we all do it. We are a product of Western culture. I do it. I'm not saying this as if I'm absolved from the crime myself. I do it myself. I complain about the smallest things. But when you look at the big picture, and there's a man holding a child, which is his daughter, which has been deformed because of that blast to the hospital, and he's holding to the world his baby, which has been deformed. Or that man who held his child by the hand, and she's dead in his hand. And you can see the agony and the pain in his face. Or that woman outside of the hospital, in agony, and using Islamic language to try and soothe herself. Alhamdulillah, this and that, and they're all settling her down. Or the picture that I saw recently of a woman saying to her child the final goodbyes as he was shrouded in white. And she was hugging her child and kissing him as he was completely shrouded. Still maintaining her full hijab, still praying, still everything is in place. How can we see this and then go about our daily lives and start complaining, being ungrateful? We're in one of the most prosperous countries in the world, Canada. Per capita, like you've got everything you need. I feel ashamed sometimes to complain about the things I complain about. So gratitude, this situation should make us grateful. Number two is to realize, actually, we're in danger too. And I made this point yesterday, and I'll make it again. There are missiles raining down on the people of Gaza. There are bullets being shot at the children of Gaza. There are rockets and mines. And that's causing death to the brothers and sisters in Gaza. But in the West, we have invisible missiles coming raining down at us. Invisible bullets. Invisible mines. And they come in the form of ideologies. Feminism, liberalism, secularism, which aim to undermine some of the key tenets of Islam. And we think that because we're living in the West, that these are all acceptable things, we challenge our own religion with those things. These are stepping stones to al-kufr and al-shirk, because they don't have the presupposition that one God exists and Muhammad is the messenger. They come from a secular paradigm. So the invisible missiles are those things which, in a covert sense, try and convince you that another kind of morality is the morality that you have to believe in. The micro-liberalism, the micro-feminism. When you're in work, you're in college or university, it comes in, and it's slow, and it's corrosive. So just as you care full well about the missiles that are hurting our brothers and sisters in Gaza, we should care full well about the invisible ideological missiles that are being hurled at us. To the point where I would say, I was just reading Surah Al-Kahf, as I'm sure many of you do on a Friday, and I came across this verse, and I've been reading this verse many, many times, and I thought about it in a completely different way. When Moses and Al-Khidr were together, I'm sure you know the story. There was a man, some say he was a prophet. Moses followed him, and he was teaching him some lessons. One of the things that happened is he killed a boy, which is quite surprising. Not Moses, Al-Khidr. Yeah? He killed the boy, I mean, فَقَتَلَهُ. Yeah? So Moses said, فَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. If you kill somebody, you know, which is pure soul, without any reason, you've done some horrendous act. When Al-Khidr was explaining his reasoning why, at this point Moses had enough of this guy. He had enough of Al-Khidr, and Al-Khidr, him and Moses separated. He said that this boy was going to grow up and he was going to cause serious distress. Serious distress for whom? For his parents. He was going to be a belligerent disbeliever and cause them serious distress. Now, why is this relevant? It's relevant because we are all at risk of this in the West. It's true that our children are not dying in a very malicious way. But what is worse, and I will say this, than our children dying, because when our children die, they go straight to Jannah. What is worse than our children dying is our children becoming kafir, disbeliever. So don't think you're safe. None of us here are safe from that. What is worse than men, women and children dying and becoming martyrs from a theological Islamic perspective without any doubt is that they grow up and they reject the religion of Islam, because if we truly believe in a heaven, an eternal hell, can you come in a little bit, please? People waiting outside. People waiting outside. If we truly believe in an eternal heaven and in an eternal hell, then there's no doubt about that. And I've been repeating this message because the question is from all of us going on, what can we do practically? What can we do practically to help? And it's important that I say this, that there are things we can do practically. Charity is becoming more difficult because no one can access that area. It's difficult. But what we can do, and what I think we have been doing, is we can change public opinion. So, that means to say we can use social media and internet to challenge the Zionist, racially supremacist narrative. And we should do that, because I think it's working. I think it's working. Number two, and people trivialize this, but it should not be trivialized, especially not on a Friday, where it's more important to do this, is to make sincere dua. And when you make sincere dua, you're not doing it for the people as much as you're doing it for yourself. Believe me. Number three, we need to, and you might think this is irrelevant, but it's not irrelevant. We need to join the ties of kinship which we have severed. There are people in this room who are not speaking to their mothers, some their fathers, some brothers, some sisters. There are people in this room who are not connected to some of their kin. Now, we have a major enemy ahead of us that wants the annihilation of our people. It's a matter of survival now, that in order for us to succeed in this, we must be united. But how can we be united as Muslims if we can't even be united with our own families? Considering the fact that Allah has made it such an egregious sin in the Quran to do qat'at rahim, to cut the ties of kinship. The fact that some of us still do that, don't speak to our blood they don't have a good relationship with their brothers or sisters, is a disgrace. So this is something we must do. If you know anybody in your family who are not speaking to each other, you must take the role of bringing them together. We must take the role of bringing everyone together, families and communities. Because now we're at a stage in the West that if we don't all combine and become one hand, then we will become a soft target for the racially supremacist enemy. There's no doubt about that. So it starts from your family. And should there not be enough incentive anyway, when the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يدخل الجنة قاطع, the one who breaks the ties of kinship will not go into Jannah. Should there not be enough incentive anyway, when Allah says in the Quran, الذين يقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض, the ones who rip up, they sever that which Allah has been commanded to be tied, i.e. the kingdom, and they spread corruption in the land. Allah says in the Quran, وَتَعَوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. That certainly comes together in birr and taqwa. So now, we should take this moment as an opportunity to unify everybody, to unify the families of the Muslims, to unify the communities of the Muslims, and to unify the Muslims themselves. Because the more they show their hate towards us, I have noticed that the more we show our love towards each other. And that's what we need to do. Because the enemy is not 6,000 miles away in Gaza, bombarding our brothers and sisters there. That's not only where the enemies are. There are enemies of Islam and Muslim people in your place of work, in your university, in your neighborhoods. And all of them secretly, many of them secretly, are happy to see what's going on, to see the killing of our people. They hate us. وَمَا تُخْفِي صُدُورُهُمْ أَكْبَرُ. And what's in their hearts, and what their hearts conceal, is even worse than what some of them have been saying. So the more they hate us, the more we have a duty to love each other and to unite on the truth of Islam together. Enough of the bickering, enough of the complaining, enough of the cutting of the ties of kinship. The Muslims of the West must unite, whether they are in Canada or the United States, the United Kingdom, or Australia, or even South Africa, or all of these places. There's one united front on a PR level, on a public opinion level, on every level, so that our rights can be respected, so that this can be a hospitable place for our children and our great-grandchildren. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم دمر أعدائك أعداء الدين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. Allahumma, make the people of Palestine victorious. May Allah destroy the enemies of Islam. May Allah destroy the enemies of Islam in every place. May Allah destroy the enemies of Islam in every place. May Allah expose their plans. May Allah destroy their plans. May Allah give victory to all of the innocents that have been slaughtered and give them solace in this dunya and in the hereafter. Wa aqimu salat.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
There's one wrong.
Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.